Do you try to avoid GMOs in your diet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is that?
Just the effects, I guess, on myself.
Do you try to avoid GMOs in your diet?
Absolutely,
Why?
because they're not good for you.
What is a GMO?
It's genetically I don't know, what is it?
What is a GMO?
I don't know. I know it's like some corn bad stuff, right? I know it's bad, but to be completely honest with you, I have no idea.
What are GMOs? GMOs are genetically modified organisms. The genetic material has been altered using genetic engineering. Lots of medications and foods are produced with genetic modification. Genetic modification can make plants grow bigger, become more nutrient-packed, and more robust. GMOs are created by taking a plant of a different species' genes and mixing it with other plants' genes to make a super plant. To create a GMO, you have to identify a specific trait you want to alter, isolate the trait, and insert the trait into whatever organism you want to alter. This is a way of editing the genotype of a species. Some history behind GMOs. The first genetically modified DNA molecule came in 1972. The first genetically modified organism came in 1973. The first genetically modified animal was in 1974. The first genetically modified plant was produced in 1983. Now we will examine the arguments of those in favor and in opposition to GMOs and their use in agriculture and medicine.
So you may remember that 2 years ago, a stunning study came out giving the organic movement a big boost in its campaign against genetically modified foods, or GMOs. Conducted by a team of French researchers and led by scientist Gilles Eric Seralini, the study found that rats fed by Monsanto's Roundup Ready corn over the course of 2 years had increased levels of tumors and mortality compared to the control group of rats. Now, just take a look at one of the highly disturbing Frankenstein photos showing the rats that were fed GM corn. Now, the findings were published in the peer-reviewed scientific journal Food and Chemical Toxicology in September of 2012, but pretty much immediately after its publication, the Seralini study began to come under intense fire from Monsanto scientists. See, the ag giant took major issue with the fact that Seralini only used a small sample size of 10 rats to make his conclusions, and that the type of rats he had used had a natural tendency to develop tumors. And this constant barrage of criticism worked, leading the editor of the journal, Dr. Wallace Hayes, to retract the paper completely, claiming that the study's methodology meant the results were inconclusive. It was a big blow to the advocates of a GMO-free food supply.
Arguments of those opposed to GMOs consist of the following. Genes are always naturally changing through evolution and natural selection. GMOs have, in animals, been linked to organ damage, gastrointestinal and immune system disorders, accelerated aging, and infertility. GMOs increase herbicide use, which pollutes the groundwater. This statement is false because GMOs simply make plants more resilient, and this includes resilience to herbicides. Some claim that GMOs cause allergies. This has not been proven and is very hard to prove because proteins in a small number of foods, such as tree nuts, cause many allergies. Other claims that increased GMOs use causes antibiotic resistance in bacteria. These two factors are independent but are said to be related because they are increasing at the same time.
GMOs are genetically modified organisms. When it comes to plants, there are 8 GMO crops. GMOs are adapted with beneficial traits that help them thrive in their environment. Think drought-tolerant corn or pest-resistant soybeans that need less bug spraying. That helps farmers, and better harvests benefit everyone, impacting what's available at the store and what we can put on our plates. Here's how it works. Plants get instructions for growth and development from their DNA, which contains thousands of genes. Researchers zero in on the gene containing specific instructions for a desirable trait. A copy of that gene goes into the DNA of host plant cells, which are grown into mature plants. Only after years of rigorous testing are the seeds from those plants made available to farmers. No syringes, no frankenfood. and much faster than traditional plant breeding methods alone. And with food demand expected to grow significantly by 2050, GMO seeds can help farmers sustainably grow enough.
The benefits of using genetically modified organisms include increased crop yield, increased shelf life, and more visually appealing foods. Genetically modified organisms can also eliminate seeds in fruits such as watermelon. You can also achieve higher levels of specific nutrients in foods through genetically modified organisms, as well as sustainable ways to feed people. GMOs allow countries that lack nutrient-rich foods to have greater access to those foods. They allow plants to grow in harsher conditions with less water, different temperatures, and maximum efficiency. GMOs are also huge in the development of pharmaceutical drugs. With genetic modification, you could theoretically prevent several genetically achieved illnesses. GMOs can make crops resistant to herbicides, which means plants won't be ruined by insects. Almost every respectable health organization worldwide agrees that eating GMO crops is no different than eating crops modified genetically through other means.
This is an organically grown papaya, a tropical fruit. This particular one is infected with the very common ring spot virus. Now, people eat papayas like this all the time. This is a papaya that's been genetically modified so that it has a tiny piece of the DNA from that very same ring spot virus embedded in its DNA. It's immune or resistant to ring spot infection. So which one do you want to eat? The natural one with lots of ring spot virus DNA, or the modified one with just a little bit of that very same DNA? It's the classic dilemma of natural versus modified. Is it good versus evil, or is it just another step in the march of agricultural progress?
In conclusion, as the world population grows and the usable land area for producing food shrinks, it is vital that people develop more efficient ways to produce food. Thus, GMOs are a great option and the benefits far outweigh the cons. Many of the cons can be weeded out by more thorough testing. Herbicides can be improved to not be pollutants. Genetically modified plants are already widely used and consumed. Finally, it is worth your consideration to help destigmatize the negative connotations surrounding GMOs. Thank you.